We know what we're going to say about Arsenal and
Go on then,
5
what are you
years.
going to say?
Well,
Go on
you're going
then.
to ask me about 5 years, aren't you?
Go on then.
Yeah, right, okay.
Answer the question that you think I'm going to ask.
5 years ago, 56 points. 4 years ago, 61 points. 3 years ago, 69 points. 4 years ago, sorry. 5 years, 56 points. 4 years, 61. 3 years, 69. Okay?
Yeah.
So then we go the last 2 seasons, 84 and 89. It's been an increase every year of points.
You're telling us progress.
So it's been
there.
upward progress, okay. And what I'd add to that is that Champions League football looked to a far away place for Arsenal in a certain period when Arteta got the job. And he's delivered it. They've got there. The biggest frustration is that Arsenal feel they should be winning the title. They've just not quite had enough to win the title.
Yeah.
They've been very close, very close. But the teams in front of them have more, or have had more. Man City had more. Liverpool had more in the last 5 years. So...
Do you think when you say more, maybe Liverpool's
a better squad now?
Well, no, I was going to say, though, maybe Liverpool's not the right example, but certainly with Manchester City, they didn't have the title-winning nous that City have or had.
No.
They don't have it right now, it feels, with City. But
when they bought Jesus and they bought Zinchenko, they bought 2 players, a winning mentality that was a great addition, and they've added, and people like Declan Rice, Odegaard, and there's been others getting Saliba back as I know he's been there as a player, but he went out on loan to Marseille, come back, and I think there's been a lot of progress at the football club. There's quite clearly a much better team today than they had 5 years ago.
Well, obviously the league is the bread and butter, we know that.
Yeah.
But he has won a trophy in his first season, the FA Cup, but hasn't won anything since. Does he have to win something, or is, as you say, as you've clearly pointed out, that progress alone just shows you he's done great work there?
One of the problems of managing a big club now is, and there's at least 5 or 6, maybe even 7 really big clubs whose fans feel that they're entitled because they've won things before and have had success. And, Arsene Wenger won quite a bit with Arsenal and played some great football. He was one of the greatest, if not the greatest manager of all time for them. Or certainly Premier League history, yes. So there will be a time, and the time is nearly upon us, where Arteta's being questioned about winning things. And yes, the FA Cup was a few years back, but they're a team that has to be challenging for the title and will, in most Arsenal's, their fans' mind, will be thinking, winning the title, we should be doing that. But then there's Man United who think that, and there's Liverpool who think that, and there's Man City, and there's Chelsea, and, Tottenham fans have had nothing to think about, but they still think they should be winning a title. It's a tough gig, and... they've just hadn't had enough. I think you cannot deny he has made a lot of progress at that football club.
They are 6 points off top spot, with Liverpool having a game in hand, obviously, after the Merseyside derby was called off a couple of weekends ago. They've dropped points, Arsenal, in draws recently to Fulham and then most recently Everton as well. Yeah. They really can't afford to drop any more points, can they, with the way things are going?
No, I mean, look, the one thing that can happen that brings everybody involved if Liverpool go on a bad run.
Of course.
That brings half a dozen teams into it.
But you're also then relying on Chelsea to drop points.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea, there isn't that great a distance between Arsenal and Chelsea, is there? So
4 points.
That's not that's
but
achievable.
Arsenal can only manage what they can only manage, obviously. So, yes, you're right, but you're relying on 2 teams to go on a bad run of form.
Yeah. Well,
but Arsenal can't also go through a bad run of form.
No, Arsenal are going to have to be better than they have been in the, so far this season. Them points that they've dropped, and you mentioned, would have been expected to get victories against Everton at home, and other teams. They've been frustrated a little. I think I've said it all along. It's not rocket science because nearly every Arsenal fan knows it now, and most of the people in football who know anything about football know that Arsenal have to have the ultimate striker. It feels like the final piece of the jigsaw for me.
Yeah, and I know you've always said Isak probably
but that
could be the
that
answer.
Quality. I mean, it's not always one. You can't always get the best one or the one, but you.
Well, is there anyone else then you can pinpoint and go, well, if it's not Isak, it could be that one?
Well, if I was, look, it's a tough one because most of the best strikers are playing in the Premier League. Okay, it pays the most money. Can you attract anybody from Real Madrid Well, they've got a different type of forward, so they've just bought Mbappe, Rodrigo. You're not going to get Vinicius Jr. No. So there's Lewandowski at Barcelona's too old. You can't go down that road now for Arsenal. So there's going abroad, and there's obviously Bayern. Well, there's the Harry, but that's probably not going to happen. So it is tough trying to pinpoint one. There's a boy at Lille I really like, Jonathan David, and he's dangerous. He's really, really dangerous. But again, that's a massive jump up. You can get your fingers burnt in that going to a league where the quality isn't quite as good. I think Isaac is probably the one I'd really want to get. That would be my number. But that's not rocket science.
No.
You don't even have to do data on him, do you? It's not one you have to go, well, we'll check all his data, he ticks all the boxes.
And it's not the risk of can he adapt to the Premier League.
Yeah, it's not.
Newcastle fans obviously won't be happy with us talking about that. But that is just a player I know you've mentioned many a time that you're surprised.
Well, it's the Fergie sort of approach. Fergie always got the best when he was winning everything, or he was close. He would go and sign Berbatov from Tottenham or Van Persie from Arsenal and many others, York from, Aston Villa.
Just a brief word on Crystal Palace. They lost 5 of their first 8 league matches this season, but now have lost just 1 of their last 8 and are unbeaten in 5 in the Premier League. I know previously Oliver Glasner, their manager, has spoken about, look, we're not going to get to the heights of how we finished last season when he took over. No. But they are sort of starting to click now. They are improving. What have you made of Palace most recently?
Yeah, they've had a real upturn in performance.
I mean, that win at Brighton, superb.
They feel a little bit more settled. Sarr's brought a lot to them because he's been a hit and miss player all his career. If you see Ismail Sarr on a good day, he looks really dangerous. Okay, but there's other days
can't he?
Yeah, he's lightning quick and he can stretch defences. He plays on the right side and at his best, you get him on a good day, he's really dangerous. He causes havoc, and his performances become more consistent. But he's one of a few. Mateta's a streaky striker. I never really think, is he going to be regular? I think it's more he goes on runs, which he's done most of his career. But they've got a decent side there. A decent side. I thought they would struggle this year. I said that at the start of the season. I thought Palace would struggle.
Well, they're in 15th currently. 4 points clear of the bottom 3, and they come into this with a bit of an injury issue, with Eze out with a hip injury that he picked up in that League Cup defeat to Arsenal, and already missing a number of players as well. Adam Wharton being one of those. Who else? Daniel Munoz, who's been scoring actually recently. He's suspended for this game. So a few issues for Crystal Palace. For Oliver Glasner to work out ahead of Arsenal visiting them this evening. It's a 5:30 kickoff. Up next.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.